Long before the first round pieces of metal we call coins were ever created, people in the ancient land of Israel still needed a way to buy and sell goods. They couldn't just walk into a market and pay with a pocket full of change. Instead, they relied on a system of barter. A farmer might trade a sack of his finest wheat for a sturdy new clay pot made by a local potter. A shepherd could exchange a healthy sheep for a bolt of colorful linen cloth. This direct exchange of goods and services was the foundation of the economy for thousands of years. It was a simple system, but it worked for the needs of the time, connecting people through the things they made and grew. However, barter had its limits. What if the potter didn't need any wheat? What if the cloth maker already had enough sheep? To solve this problem, people began to use a more universal form of payment: precious metals. Silver and sometimes gold became the standard for value. These metals were desirable, durable, and could be divided into smaller pieces, but they weren't used as coins. Instead, they were treated as a commodity, just like grain or livestock. To make a payment, a person would take out a piece of silver, perhaps a broken earring or a small ingot, and place it on one side of a balance scale. On the other side, they would put carefully crafted stone weights to determine its exact value. This method of payment is mentioned many times in the Bible. When Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah as a burial place for his wife Sarah, the text says he weighed out the silver. He paid 400 shekels of silver. It's important to understand that the shekel in this story was not a coin. It was a unit of weight, a standard measure used across the ancient Near East. People carried pieces of unformed silver, sometimes called hacksilver, which means cut silver. They would literally cut off a piece of the required weight to complete a transaction. This system required honesty and accurate weights, and it was the primary way commerce was conducted for centuries. The transition from weighing silver to using coins was a slow but revolutionary process. The idea of a coin, a piece of metal with a specific weight and value guaranteed by a king or a city, had not yet been born. For the people of ancient Israel, the clinking of coins was a sound of the future. Their world of commerce was one of careful measurement, of balancing scales, and of the intrinsic value held within a rough piece of shining silver. This system laid the groundwork for what was to come, establishing the shekel as a fundamental unit of value long before it was ever stamped onto a round metal disc. It was a practical solution for a world without mints or money changers, a world built on trust and tangible worth. The world of commerce in the land of Israel began to change dramatically around the 5th century BCE. The Persian Empire ruled the region, and with them came a new invention that was spreading from the West: coinage. The very first coins used in the area were not locally made. They were minted by the Greeks and the Persians themselves, and brought into the region by soldiers, merchants, and administrators. The most common Persian coin was the darik, a thick gold coin often showing the Persian king holding a bow and arrow. There was also a silver version called the siglos. These coins were a major innovation because their weight and purity were guaranteed by the powerful Persian king. People no longer had to weigh out pieces of silver for every single transaction. A merchant could now accept a coin, trusting that it contained the correct amount of precious metal. This made trade faster, easier, and more reliable. Alongside the Persian coins, Greek coins also began to circulate widely. The most famous of these was the Athenian owl tetradrachm. This silver coin was renowned for its high quality and consistent weight. It featured a portrait of the goddess Athena on one side and her sacred animal, the owl, on the other. These coins were so trusted that they were accepted as a form of international currency across the Mediterranean and the Near East. For a time, the people in the province of Yehud, as Judea was then called, used these foreign coins for their daily business. But soon, they began to make their own. Under Persian authority, local governors were allowed to mint small silver coins for local use. These were some of the very first coins ever produced in the land of Israel. They were tiny, often smaller than a fingernail, and they imitated the designs of the popular Greek coins. Many of these early Yehud coins featured an owl, just like the Athenian ones, but the artistic style was simpler and more local. Importantly, they also included inscriptions in ancient Hebrew or Aramaic script, often spelling out Yehud. When Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire in 332 BCE, the Greek influence on coinage became even stronger. The entire region was flooded with Greek-style coins, especially those bearing the portrait of Alexander himself, often depicted as the hero Heracles wearing a lion skin. After his death, his successors, the Ptolemies in Egypt and the Seleucids in Syria, continued to mint coins that circulated throughout Judea. These coins featured portraits of the new kings and Greek gods. For the Jewish population, this meant using money that was covered in the symbols of a foreign culture and a foreign religion, a situation that would soon lead to a powerful desire for change. The period of Greek rule eventually led to a major Jewish uprising known as the Maccabean Revolt. This successful rebellion resulted in the establishment of an independent Jewish kingdom ruled by the Hasmonean Dynasty, beginning in the mid-2nd century BCE. For the first time in centuries, Jewish leaders had the authority to mint their own national coins. This was a powerful statement of sovereignty and independence. The first Hasmonean ruler to issue coins was John Hyrcanus I. His coins were not large and impressive silver pieces like the Greek ones but small bronze coins, known as pruto. They were meant for everyday use in the local markets of Judea. The designs on these Hasmonean coins were carefully chosen to reflect Jewish values and laws. Unlike the Greek coins with their portraits of kings and gods, the Hasmonean coins strictly avoided putting a human face on them. This was in keeping with the Second Commandment's prohibition against making graven images. Instead, they used symbols that were meaningful to the Jewish people and acceptable under religious law. A common design was a double cornucopia, the horn of plenty, filled with fruits and grains, symbolizing prosperity and God's blessing upon the land. Between the two horns, there was often a pomegranate, another ancient symbol of fertility and abundance in Judaism. The inscriptions on the coins were just as significant as the symbols. They were written in ancient Hebrew script, a clear rejection of the Greek language that had dominated the region's coinage for so long. The text on the coins of John Hyrcanus I declared him as Yehohanan the high priest and the council of the Jews. This title was important. It showed that he ruled not as a king in the Greek style, but as the high priest, the religious leader of his people, with the support of the Jewish council. His successors like Alexander Jannaeus would later take the title of king, and their coin inscriptions reflected this change, stating Yehonatan, the king. Alexander Jannaeus, who ruled from 103 to 76 BCE, was the most prolific minter of the Hasmonean dynasty. He produced millions of bronze pruto, which are still commonly found by archaeologists today. His most common coin design featured an anchor on one side and a star with 8 rays on the other. The anchor was likely a reference to the Hasmonean kingdom's control over coastal cities and trade, while the star may have been a symbol of his royal power. These small bronze coins were the money of the people. They were used to buy bread, oil, and other daily necessities, and they served as a constant reminder that Judea was once again a free and independent nation under its own rulers. After the Hasmonean dynasty weakened, Rome's power grew in the region, and in 37 BCE, they installed a new ruler, Herod the Great. Although he was a client king of Rome, Herod was also a king of the Jews, and he had to walk a fine line between pleasing his Roman masters and respecting the religious feelings of his Jewish subjects. This balancing act is clearly visible in the coins he minted. Like the Hasmoneans, Herod issued only bronze coins, and he carefully avoided putting his own portrait on them. He knew this would deeply offend the Jewish population. Instead, he used a variety of symbols that were either neutral or had some connection to Jewish tradition. Herod's coins featured objects like a tripod, a helmet, a shield, and a palm branch. One of his most common coins was a bronze pruta, the same denomination used by the Hasmoneans. This coin often showed an anchor on one side, with the Greek inscription of King Herod, and a double cornucopia on the other, directly copying a design from the earlier Jewish kings. By using Greek instead of Hebrew, he signaled his connection to the wider Hellenistic and Roman world. By using familiar symbols like the cornucopia, he connected himself to the Hasmonean past. His coins were a brilliant piece of political messaging, designed to be acceptable to everyone. After Herod's death, his kingdom was divided among his sons. They continued to mint coins in a similar style. Later, when Judea came under direct Roman rule, the coins were issued by Roman governors, known as prefects and procurators. One of the most famous of these governors was Pontius Pilate, the official who the New Testament says presided over the trial of Jesus. The coins minted by Pilate are particularly interesting. Like his predecessors, he issued small bronze pruto. His coins featured symbols that were Roman in origin but were likely chosen because they were not overtly offensive, such as the simpulum, a ladle used in Roman rituals, and the lituus, a curved staff used by Roman priests. These coins of the Roman procurators circulated widely during the time of Jesus and the early Christian movement. When the New Testament mentions coins like the mite or lepton, it is referring to these small bronze pruto issued by rulers like Herod's descendants or Roman governors like Pilate. While these coins did not have Jewish symbols, they generally avoided the pagan religious imagery that was common on coins elsewhere in the Roman Empire. This was a concession to the unique monotheistic culture of Judea. These coins show how Rome tried to manage its rule over a province with deeply held religious beliefs that were very different from their own. The careful balance between Roman rule and Jewish sensitivities eventually shattered. In 66 CE, a massive rebellion against Rome broke out across Judea. This event is known as the First Jewish-Roman War, or the Great Revolt. As a powerful declaration of their freedom, the Jewish rebels immediately began to mint their own coins. These were not small bronze coins like those of the Hasmoneans or Herod. For the first time since the Persian period, Jewish authorities minted large, beautiful silver shekels and half shekels. This was a direct challenge to the authority of Rome, as the minting of silver coins was a right reserved for the emperor. The designs and inscriptions on these revolt coins were filled with powerful patriotic and religious meaning. The silver shekel featured a chalice, a vessel used in the temple, on one side with the Hebrew inscription Shekel of Israel. Above the chalice were letters indicating the year of the revolt, such as year 1, year 2, and so on. The other side showed a stem with 3 pomegranates and the inscription Jerusalem the Holy. These coins were not just money, they were propaganda. They proclaimed to the world that Israel was a free nation once more, with its holy city, Jerusalem, at its center. The rebels also minted bronze coins with symbols like the vine leaf, representing the fertility of the land, and the amphora, a wine vessel. The revolt was ultimately crushed by the Romans in 70 CE, with the destruction of Jerusalem and the Second Temple. To celebrate their victory, the Romans issued their own special series of coins. These Judea capta coins, meaning Judea has been captured, were minted in gold, silver, and bronze. They were spread across the empire to broadcast Rome's military might. The typical design showed a Roman soldier standing triumphantly, while a female figure representing Judea sits on the ground mourning under a palm tree. The inscription often read, Iv Dea Capta. These coins were a stark and humiliating reminder of the defeat. About 60 years later, in 132 CE, a second major rebellion against Rome erupted, led by a man named Simon bar Kokhba. Once again, the Jewish rebels created their own coinage as a symbol of their newfound freedom. Because they did not have the resources to create new coin blanks, they took existing Roman coins that were circulating in the country and struck their own designs over them. This act of overstriking was itself an act of defiance, erasing the symbols of Roman power and replacing them with Jewish ones. You can sometimes still see traces of the original Roman coin underneath the Bar Kokhba design, a ghost of the empire they sought to overthrow. The coins of Bar Kokhba boldly proclaimed for the freedom of Jerusalem and featured images of the temple facade and instruments used in temple services. After the defeat of the Bar Kokhba revolt, independent Jewish coinage disappeared from the land of Israel for nearly 2,000 years. The region remained firmly under Roman and later Byzantine rule. The Byzantine Empire was a Christian empire, and its coins really reflected this change. The money that circulated in the land, which the Byzantines called Palestina, was dominated by Christian symbols. Gold, silver, and bronze coins from this era typically featured a portrait of the reigning emperor on one side. On the reverse, instead of Roman gods, there was often a cross or other Christian imagery. The mint marks on these coins show that many were produced in cities not far from Israel, such as Antioch and Alexandria. In the 7th century CE, a new power rose from the Arabian Peninsula, and the armies of Islam conquered the Byzantine province of Palestina. This brought another dramatic shift in coinage. At first, the new Arab rulers simply copied the existing coin types. They minted coins that looked very similar to Byzantine and Sasanian or Persian coins, sometimes adding short Arabic inscriptions like Bismillah, meaning in the name of God. However, by the end of the 7th century, under the Caliph Abd al-Malik, a major reform took place. All pictorial imagery was removed from the coins in accordance with a strict interpretation of Islamic law. The new coins were purely epigraphic, meaning they featured only writing. These new Islamic coins, known as dinars for gold and dirhams for silver, were covered in beautiful Arabic script. The inscriptions were usually verses from the Quran and declarations of Islamic faith, such as, "There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger." The coins also stated the name of the caliph and the date and mint where the coin was made. For several centuries under dynasties like the Umayyads, Abbasids, and Fatimids, this was the money used in the land. Cities like Ramla and Tiberias became important regional mints, producing coins that circulated throughout the Islamic world. The coins tell a story of a culture that valued the written word above all other symbols. Then, in 1099, European knights of the First Crusade captured Jerusalem and established a series of crusader states. This brought yet another type of coinage to the region. The Crusaders minted coins that imitated both European and local styles. The Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem produced gold coins that looked remarkably like the Islamic dinars they replaced, even including garbled Arabic-style script, because these Byzants were trusted in international trade. They also minted silver and belon, which is low-grade silver, coins with Christian symbols, such as the cross and the Tower of David, or the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. These coins represent a unique and often violent meeting of cultures, where European feudal lords ruled over a diverse local population. The era of Crusader rule was relatively short. By the 13th century, Muslim forces, particularly the Mamluks based in Egypt, had reconquered the land. For the next several centuries, the coinage of the Mamluks, and later the powerful Ottoman Empire, became the standard currency. The Ottoman Turks conquered the region in 1517 and would rule it for 400 years, until the end of World War I. During this long period, a vast and complex array of Ottoman coins circulated. These coins were minted in various metals including gold, silver, and copper, and came from mints across the massive empire from Constantinople to Cairo. The design of Ottoman coins followed the Islamic tradition of avoiding images. They were decorated with intricate Arabic calligraphy. A key feature of Ottoman coins was the tugra, an elaborate and beautiful monogram that served as the official signature of the reigning sultan. Each sultan had his own unique tugra, so the coins can be dated based on which ruler's signature appears on them. The coins also included the sultan's name, his titles, the mint location, and the year he ascended to the throne. For the people living in the provinces of Palestine, this was the money of everyday life, used to pay taxes to the Sultan and to buy goods in the markets of Jerusalem, Jaffa, and Acre. The long reign of the Ottomans came to an end in 1917 when British forces defeated them during World War I. The League of Nations granted Great Britain a mandate to govern the territory, which became known as Mandatory Palestine. The British administration quickly set about creating a new and distinct currency for the region. In 1927 they introduced the Palestine Pound. This new money was designed to serve the entire population of the Mandate, which included Arabs, Jews, and British officials. To reflect this diversity, the coins and banknotes had inscriptions in 3 official languages: English, Arabic, and Hebrew. The Hebrew text included the letters Aleph and Yud in parentheses, standing for Eretz Yisrael, or Land of Israel. The coins of the British Mandate were modern and uniform in style. The denominations were called mills. There were 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 mil coins. The smaller bronze coins had a simple hole in the center, a design feature that made them easy to distinguish by feel. The larger nickel and silver coins featured an olive branch, a classic symbol of peace and the agricultural abundance of the land. This choice of a neutral local symbol was a deliberate attempt to create a currency that all communities could accept. These coins were used for 2 decades, during a period of intense political change that would ultimately lead to the end of the Mandate and the birth of a new state. In May 1948, with the end of the British Mandate, the State of Israel was declared. The new nation urgently needed its own currency to establish its economic independence and national identity. In the midst of the War of Independence, the provisional government moved quickly. At first, they simply used the old British Mandate banknotes with an overprint, but soon plans were made for a truly Israeli currency. The name chosen for the main unit was the Israeli lira, also known as the Israeli pound. The smaller denomination was called the pruta, a name consciously revived from the small bronze coins of the Hasmonean and Herodian periods. 1,000 pruto equaled 1 lira. The first coins of the State of Israel were issued in 1949. Their designs were a powerful link to the nation's ancient past, drawing directly from the coins of the Jewish revolts against Rome. The 10 pruta coin, for example, featured an amphora, a design taken from a bronze coin of the Great Revolt. The 25 pruta coin showed a cluster of grapes, another classic symbol of the land's fertility, also inspired by ancient Jewish coinage. The 50 pruta coin displayed a vine leaf. The most famous design was for the 100 pruta coin, which featured a palm tree, a symbol that had appeared on Roman Judea Capta coins as a sign of defeat, but was now reclaimed as a symbol of Israeli strength and endurance. The inscriptions on these first coins were simple and direct. They stated the value of the coin and the word Israel in both Hebrew and Arabic. This inclusion of Arabic was a continuation of the trilingual policy of the Mandate period, and a recognition of the Arab minority within the new state. These coins were more than just currency, they were a declaration. They told the story of a people returning to their historical homeland and reviving their ancient symbols of sovereignty. By choosing designs from the Great Revolt and the Bar Kokhba Revolt, Israel was symbolically finishing a story of independence that had been interrupted 2,000 years earlier. This series of coins based on the lira and pruta was used throughout the 1950s. However, in 1960, the currency was reformed. The lira was now divided into 100 agorot instead of 1,000 pruta. This led to the minting of a new series of coins. While the designs were updated, they continued the same theme of connecting the modern state to its ancient history. The new 1 agora coin, for example, featured 3 ears of barley. The 5 agorot coin showed 3 pomegranates, a design taken directly from the silver shekels of the Great Revolt. And the 10 agorot coin featured the palm tree, continuing the powerful symbol from the previous series. These coins circulated for 2 decades, becoming a familiar part of daily life in a growing nation. By the late 1970s, Israel was experiencing high inflation, which made the small values of the lira and agora impractical. The government decided that a currency reform was needed. On February 24, 1980, a major change was introduced. The lira was replaced by the shekel. The name itself was deeply symbolic. It was a direct callback to the ancient unit of weight used in biblical times and, even more powerfully, to the magnificent silver shekels minted during the first Jewish revolt against Rome. The return of the shekel was a profound statement of historical continuity. 1 new shekel was worth 10 of the old lira. The coins of the new shekel series continued the tradition of using designs inspired by ancient Jewish coinage. The designers, Gabi and Maxim Shamir, created a beautiful and cohesive set that became instantly recognizable. The 1 agora coin featured the 3-stringed lyre from a Bar Kokhba coin. The 5 agorot coin showed a replica of a coin from the 4th year of the Great Revolt, depicting a lulav and etrog, symbols of the Sukkot festival. The 10 agorot coin featured the 7-branched menorah, a central symbol of Judaism, accompanied by the word Israel. The half-shekel coin displayed a roaring lion, taken from an ancient seal found at Megiddo from the 8th century BCE. Unfortunately, high inflation continued through the early 1980s. The shekel rapidly lost its value, and soon the government had to introduce another reform. On September 4, 1985, the new shekel was introduced. To make the math simple, 1 new shekel was made equal to 1,000 of the old shekels. This is the currency system that Israel uses today. A new series of coins was designed by artists like Gabi Newman and Dov Leaf. This series maintained the powerful theme of linking the present to the past. The 1 new shekel coin features a lily, taken from an ancient Yehud coin from the Persian period. The 2 new shekel coin introduced later shows the double cornucopia from Hasmonean coins. From ancient trade with weighted silver to the coins of foreign empires, and from the defiant minting during revolts to the modern currency of a sovereign state, the story of coinage in Israel is a mirror of its history. Each coin is a small metal document that tells us who was in power, what symbols they valued, and what messages they wanted to send. The Greeks brought images of their gods, the Romans celebrated their conquests, and Islamic rulers covered their coins in sacred text. But through it all, the Jewish symbols of the land, the grape cluster, the palm tree, the pomegranate, and the menorah, endured. Today's Israeli coins, with their designs drawn from this deep well of history, are a daily reminder of a journey spanning 3 millennia. A journey from shekels to shekels.